Imperfect tense. Now we come to the module that introduces our second major tense in Hebrew. The first major tense is the perfect and the second is the imperfect. So obviously this is going to be something to memorize. This is one of the most important things in Hebrew to memorize. The perfect tense, which we've already looked at, the perfect tense is made up of the root and some vowels and suffixes. Okay, so this is made up of suffixes. And the imperfect is characterized by prefixes. So every one has a prefix. Now there are a few forms that have a prefix and have a suffix. So there are some suffixes too. So I'll put that down here. And we'll take a look at these forms in a moment. But the perfect is characterized by suffixes. Sometimes people call it a suffix tense or an affix tense. And the imperfect is characterized by prefixes. Now there are different names for these. I don't think I'll introduce them now. It just confuses things. So let's just think about perfect and imperfect, and this is suffixes and this is prefixes. Okay, I've got a series of slides here to show you, so we can talk about this here. And before I do anything, why don't I put our M up here just as a visual reminder. This is most definitely something to memorize. Now all the slides here will have the imperfect in the white, and then in the grayed out I'm going to have the perfect there so that we can do a comparison. And if we just look at this, we can see pakad is our root, so we have pakad through all of it, right? And we see we've got yud, tav, 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 so prefixes here, aleph down there, yud, tav, 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 nun. So these are characterized by prefixes, and some have suffixes on it too, here and here and here. Here, by contrast, is our perfect. They all start with p. See that all the way down? That's because they have no prefixes, only suffixes. This one has no suffix, the rest have suffixes. Okay. Now one thing before we go any further here, you notice how the pei in pakad, in the suffix form, or the perfect form, has this dagesh in there. That's a dagesh lene, and it's just there because pakad happens to be a begad kafat letter, and it's our paradigm word. Yifkod has no dagesh lene because it comes at the end of a syllable. So that's not really part of the paradigm. If you had a verb here that didn't have a begad kafat letter, then you wouldn't see this distinction. So don't worry about that. That dagesh lene is just there because it happens to be a pei. Okay, let us look at some of these features. Okay, what I've highlighted here is the prefixes and the suffixes of the imperfect. So you see here we've got the greens, prefixes here, and then we got suffixes here. We got suffixes on these here. Now some people will call these prefixes, they'll call it a performative. Some people will call it a prefix and then call this the prefix complement. These are affixes, these are prefix complements, and the reason they do that is to distinguish it from pronominal suffixes. What I'm going to do here, because this is what Ross does in his book, we're going to keep it really simple. We're going to call this a prefix, okay, a little bit that comes before a word. We're going to call this a suffix. We're going to call these things suffixes. So this will be a suffix and this will be a suffix. And when we want to talk about pronominal suffixes, because you can put pronominal suffixes on verbs too, like we've had them on le, we've had them on nouns, we've had them on the definite direct object marker, we've had them on prepositions. Later we'll come to them on verbs. And so if you stick, let's say we put a pronominal suffix on here, if we were to stick one on here, we would have the prefix, the verb, the suffix, and then another suffix. So that's why people give this a different name to distinguish it from this. what we're going to do is call this prefix, this suffix, and this pronominal suffix. So that'll keep it straight and it's fairly clear then. Okay, the other thing I want to say here is that the prefix and the suffix, this is all part of the verb. Okay, this is really a different piece that you add on. The pronominal suffix we'll come to later. But these suffixes here and here and here, as on the perfect itself, are very much a part of the verb and need to be thought of that way. Okay, let's see what else we have for slides. So, we're highlighting here the prefixes and the suffixes of the imperfect. Now, we have 4 types of prefixes in the imperfect. You can see by the colors here. First of all, we have yud, and you'll notice that there's a yud over here and over here. The yud marks the third person masculine. Okay? If you remember, maybe we'll divide this up just for this slide into persons. So here we have first person, second person, sorry, wrong way around, third person, second person, first person. Okay, the yud marks the third person masculine, not feminine, that's the feminine line here, just the masculine line in both the singular and the plural. So we have yifkod and we have yifkdu. Okay? Then we have the tav. Now the tav is marking all 3 of these, which is a bit confusing because it's marking second person and it's marking third person feminine. So we have it used 6 times here. And then we have aleph used down here for the first person singular and nun used here for the first person plural. Now we can see there's a nun here and a nun here. Bakadnu, nifkod. So we have a nun in both those here. Aleph is a bit of an odd one there, so remember that. It kind of sticks out. What you're going to want to do is just memorize this thing. This paradigm, you're going to want to write that down 1,000,000 times on a piece of paper, say it over 1,000,000 times, and just learn it really well. What I'm going to do, or what I am doing here, is going through and looking at the different patterns, just to help you be aware of what's going on, and it'll be easier to memorize if you have some of these patterns in your mind. Okay, here we're looking at the suffixes. These were the prefixes, these are the suffixes, and we have 2 types. You see the green ones here and the red ones. Do you see what the difference is? The green ones, e, u, and u, are just vowels, right? So those are our vocalic suffixes. These ones, na and na, they're both the same. They start with a consonant. These are consonantal suffixes, and these are vocalic suffixes. Now, what happened with the perfect with vocalic suffixes? Do you remember? We have 2 of them. Let me change this to green. Remember, we have this one, and we have this one. U is a vocalic suffix, and a. And in those 2 forms, the vocalic suffix, the vowel, because you can't start a syllable with a vowel, it steals the last consonant and then changes the syllabification all the way down the line. And as a result, you get pre-tonic reduction. See your pakad there, or your patach, and pakad becomes a shavad, reduces. Pakad, 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 but then it reduces because you have pre-tonic reduction because of the vocalic suffix. You get pakad all the way through. We have the same thing with the imperfect. It's just different, 4 different forms. We have it here, here, and here, as opposed to here and here. But you'll notice we have reduction of the vowel just previous to it, pre-tonic reduction. Okay, right here. See the shavad there? We have a holum here. I'll talk about that later. But we have reduction here, and we have it here, and we have it here. So we have vocalic suffixes, 3 of them, and we have 2 consonantal suffixes, na and na. The other ones have no suffix. None here, none here, none here, none here, and none here. Okay, so those are prefixes and suffixes. Now we have 2 sets of pairs. Over here we have tifkod and tifkod. They're exactly the same. This is 3fs, and this is 2ms. So this is when you're speaking to her, okay? A third person feminine singular. Pakad is to visit, So tifkod, we'll talk about how to translate this later, but let's just translate as a future for now. She will visit would be this one, and this is you will visit, talking to a guy. So we have a similarity that goes across the person barrier here, or whatever. Third person and second person, a bit odd that way. Here also we have two pairs, or a pair. That's exactly the same. Tifkodna, tifkodna. This is good for memorizing because you don't have to memorize more forms. You have two less forms to memorize. And here also it's third person and second person. In this case, they're both feminine. Here this is feminine, this is masculine. Here they're both feminine. Tifkodna, tifkodna is either talking to a group or about a group of ladies in third person. They, the ladies that is, will visit. Or here, you, plural ladies, will visit. So you have two sets of identical pairs in this paradigm. Then we have another pair that is similar, not identical but similar, and that's yifkadu, tifkadu. The only thing that's different is this first part. They sound very same. The end is the same here. And so here what we have is they're both masculine, third and second, and so this would be they, masculine plural, a bunch of either mixed group or a bunch of guys, they will visit. And this one here is you, masculine plural, talking to a group of guys, you will visit. So we have a similarity here. We have a similarity, we have an identity here. We have a similarity here, and we have a similarity here. Or identity in these two, I guess I should say, because they're identical forms, and a similarity here. Okay. Okay, this I put in just because I don't know whether other people are bothered by this, but these are 2 points that I have sometimes confused between the imperfect and the perfect. The first here, we'll look at the pink. This here is the 2FS, talking to a single lady or a single girl. Tifkadi has an E ending. The suffix here is hidik yud. But if you're not careful, you can get it mixed up with a perfect that has a T suffix, which is actually tav hidik yud. But if you think that's part of the root, then you may get it confused. So be aware that these two, if you're not careful, can be confused. It's not too bad because generally you look for the prefix first. So they have a prefix, and then that tells you which one you're in, and then you concern yourself with the end. The other thing is not really a point of confusion, but just a point of similarity and something to be aware of. Both the imperfect and the perfect have a nun as part of their identifier for the first person plural, the we form. And in the perfect, it's a suffix, because it's a suffix tense, and in the imperfect, it's a prefix. So be aware that here you have a nun at the end, and here you have it at the beginning. So just 2 points of contact, similarity, possible confusion between these two tenses, the imperfect and the perfect. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, now I want to look at vowels. We've looked at prefixes, we've looked at suffixes, we've looked at similarities and differences between the tenses, and we've also looked at these pairs. Now let's look at vowels. The vowels are small, hard to see, unfortunately. There's 2 types of vowels, and let me write this down. There's what they call the prefix vowel. Prefix vowel. And that is the vowel that we see here. It's the hidik. In the imperfect tense, in the cow, and we'll deal with other paradigms later, but here we see that the basic prefix vowel for the imperfect tense is the hidik. So hidik, 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 and then we have a surprise. We have a segal. So that is different. Then we have hidik, 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 hidik. So it's hidik all the way through except for this aleph, which insists on a segal. So prefix vowel is one type of vowel that we have that marks the imperfect. The other one is this vowel here, the second vowel, and that is called the theme vowel. And that will become important as well. Theme vowel. Okay, so the theme vowel is holum. Maybe what I should have done here is said the hitic. Normally it's hitic, okay? Except for that aleph there, except for this one. This is the oddball. But otherwise, the prefix vowel is hitic, and the theme vowel is holum. Okay, so we have holum here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Now in this form, and in this form, and in this form, we don't have a holum. Can you tell why? You should know because I already talked about this. We have a holum here in this position, but once we add a vocalic suffix, we get pretonic reduction, and the thing that reduces is, lo and behold, the holum. So in the forms where we have a vocalic suffix, we do not have a holum because it has reduced. Reduced to this shava. That's what's under this kof right here. Okay. So we have prefix vowel hitic and the single sagol, theme vowel holum, except where there's pretonic reduction. What else have we got? That's it? Okay. Now what you want to do, let me find a clean one here. Oh, we'll go to this one. Let me read this for you, and then you can go off and memorize it. Yifkod, put my cursor up here. Yifkod, tifkod, tifkod, tifkadi, efkod, yifkadu, tifkodna, tifkadu, tifkodna, nifkod. Okay, the stress is at the end for all of them, except for these two. Tifkodna, not tifkodna. Okay, it's good to memorize it with the correct stress, and you know how to spell it. So, yifkod, tifkod, tifkod, tifkadi, efkod, yifkadu, tifkodna, tifkadu, tifkodna, nifkod. You want to be able to say it just like a nursery rhyme, really fast. And also write it out, so you know all the little particulars, because we're going to have many, many paradigms that build on this. Just like we're going to have many paradigms that build on the perfect. This is the perfect. We're going to have the same thing here for the imperfect. So, it's very, very important to memorize this and know it really, really well.